to your stories of your days in Greenland dock, of barges full of rough goods when you've been on the job and knock, of pockets full of money earned for sitting on a barge, and how you are a race apart from people by and large.
I want to tell you a little bit about the life and traditions of a man called Giles Millett. By looking at some really old documents dated from 1861, I have found out that he was a married man, and in 1861 he was 81 years old, and he was married to a lady called Mary, who in 1861 was 65 years old, and he was living in Fulham, London, United Kingdom, and that his job was that of a lighterman. In another old document I have found out that he was living in the High Street, Fulham, and this also shows that he was a lighterman. This is a picture of Fulham High Street around about 1880. And this is Fulham High Street in 2015. In 1833, Giles and his wife had a son. Now I can't show you a picture of Giles because this was a long time before the age of photography, but I can show you a picture of his son. This is a picture of their son as an older gentleman. He was called Giles James Millett. Giles Millett was my great-great-grandfather-in-law. What really interests me about Giles was his occupation, his job. He was a lighterman. The River Thames runs through the City of London. Lightermen carried cargo between ships and the quayside. The port of London was too shallow for many large ships to get alongside a quay to unload, so lighters, barges, were used to unload the ships in deeper water in the middle of the river. The lightermen take their name from this process of lightening the ships. The barges they used didn't have an engine. They were rowed with oars, and they used the rising and falling tides to take them in and out of the busy docks. It was a difficult thing to become a lighterman. It often ran in families, and the skills were passed down through the generations, and there was also a very long apprenticeship of 5 years. This is the coat of arms of the Company of Watermen and Lightermen of the River Thames. The company was founded in 1514 by Henry VIII. Being a lighterman was an extremely difficult, dangerous and skillful job, and the motto on the top of the coat of arms is a reminder that these men were at the mercy of nature, the wind and the tides. London was once the greatest trading port of the world. At its peak there were 6,000 lightermen. Now there are none, and their heritage and their traditions have all but vanished. The once busy port became less important because of container ships that were much bigger and went elsewhere, and trade is being done through the Channel Tunnel and by air. The old docks and wharfs in London were soon bought up by property developers who built apartments and flats on them. The whole purpose of the canals being built in the 18th and 19th century was to transport goods. The people who lived and worked on the canals formed their own communities with their own traditions and customs. They worked and lived on their boats, so they were often very highly decorated in a certain style. It is known as castles and roses. Not only did they paint their boats, but they painted their pots and pans too. So I thought we might have a go at painting or making some rose patterns for ourselves. If you go to the Facebook page Cabin Cruiser Adventure, which is linked to this channel on the About page, you can find, save and download this colouring sheet. Or we can have a go at making some roses for ourselves. And I'm going to show you how I have done that, and it may give you some ideas yourselves. So let's have a go at that. Being at home, it's obviously a matter of using what you can lay your hands on. I've had a look around, and I've come up with, I've got a set of watercolour paints here which I've used, which are okay. I've also found some oil paints which could also be used. But I came across some little pots of poster paint, so I'm going to use those first of all to have a go at painting a rose. Okay, so the first thing I've done is I've taken some brown paint and I've mixed it with a bit of purple paint to make a sort of a mauvey colour. And then on my paper I am going to just paint a circle. Doesn't have to be exact, but just a round shape, and I'm going to fill that in. That's sort of forming the shadow of the rose head. And we'll let that dry a little bit. Then I've taken some green paint. I'm going to use that to draw the shape of a leaf. Going to do one either side of the rose head. And then I'm going to paint those paint them in. I want to give a little bit of depth to my leaves, so I'm going to mix some of this green with a little bit of the browny mauve colour, just to make a slightly darker green. I'm just going to put some of that at this part of the leaf here and just spread it in amongst the other. Now to that original brown colour that I used for the centre shadow of the rose, I'm now going to make that slightly darker by mixing in some blue. And I'm going to decide where I want the centre of my rose to be. So I'm not going to put it quite in the middle, I'm just going to put it a little bit higher up, and I'm going to make a little circle. The painting on the narrowboats tended to be either on a blue, a red or a green background, and then the rest of the colours are quite bright, so I'm going to use a nice bright yellow here to pick out some detail on the leaves to put the veins in. And I thought I would do them a little bit like the drawing on the colouring sheet. So I'm just going to put some veins in now that the leaves are a little bit drier. Nice and bright and bold. I'm going to have a go at drawing with my paintbrush the shape of a petal. And if you're not sure about this, have a look on the colouring sheet to try and get the right shape for them. So this is the first petal, and you see I'm doing it just underneath that darker middle of the rose head. So that's the first one. And here's the next one, which is going to go underneath the first one there, and bring it around. And you need to leave some of the darker shadow showing through. And then I'm going to put one on this side. So that's the third petal. On the boats they would have used a gloss paint, the kind of paint that you would paint an outside door with. And I'm just going to do two more petals on the top here, smaller one here. And one more here, just wrapping around that centre part of the rose. Now again, I want to give some depth to the petals, so I'm going to use some of the bright yellow, and I'm going to decide which is the tip of the petal, and from the tip I'm just going to blend in a little bit of the yellow, which will make the top part of the petals slightly lighter. A little bit on that edge. So there we are. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just put in about 4 little strikes of yellow for the stamen of the plant. So I'm just really just going to lay the brush down just there for 1, 2, maybe 4, 3, 4. One of the things that they often did, just to emphasize the leaves, they would put some little dots around them just as decoration. So that's my first effort at doing a rose with the leaves, and that's using the sort of school poster paint, acrylic paint. I also had a go at doing this with watercolour paint, so that's my first attempt at it. And there's a second one, and you can see I did some different kinds of veins on that. And then this one is done with felt tip pen rather than paint. Same kind of thing. Did a mauvey background, a slightly darker bit in the middle there, and then some brighter red for the petals, and different shades of green for the leaves with the veins. And then I was fortunate to be able to find a little bit of goldy glitter which highlighted the petals and then the little stamens in the middle. Then rather than using paint, I thought I'd have a go at doing it with coloured paper, and this slightly more stylized pattern here. There you go, I highlighted the petals with a bit of white and some red petals and some darker background, and there again is the middle of the rose petal with the stamens, and then again I've done the green leaves and highlighted the veins. So that was just using pieces of card and coloured paper and some glue. In this episode we've been looking at some of the river and canal heritage and traditions, and when we're able I would highly recommend visiting some of the boating museums, such as the London Docklands Museum and the National Waterways Museum at Ellesmere Port in Cheshire. If any of you are going to have a go at doing some of the artwork, then please feel free to post it on the Cabin Cruiser Adventure page on Facebook, or use the email button to email it to me, and I will include it in future episodes. I hope you're all keeping well and safe. Please take care.
Well, we'll listen to your stories of your days in Greenland dock, of barges full of rough goods when you've been on the job and knock, of pockets full of money earned for sitting on a barge, and how you are a race apart from people by and large, of hours spent in cafes and pubs, of woodbines, tea and toast, of turned up jeans and old nail boots for guide and winning post, of the barmaids you've been seeing, if only in a dream, of the nights spent on the Merkin when tugs ran out of steam. But like the Arrowsmiths and wheelwrights, yours is a dying trade, and each day you grow more bitter as your numbers slowly fade. Port of London's dying, though she's been a grand old girl, and Father Thames no longer holds the shipping of the world. Fill it in your docks, knocking down your wharves and pubs, they're selling all your barges and scrapping all your tugs. In their luxury apartments that command a river view, as they sip their dry martinis, do they ever think of you? What do they know of Greenhive, Blackwell Point and Wapping Sands, as they talk of liquidation and watch their stocks and shares? But still you'll have the last laugh as they're hellbound for their sin. It'll be so full of lightermen, they surely won't get in. Do they know of Greenhive, Blackwell Point and Wapping Stairs, as they talk of liquidation and watch their stocks and shares? But still you'll have the last laugh as they're hellbound for their sin. It'll be so full